Let's move on to the big show for Bellator this Saturday night in San Diego. Main event. I can't even say this. Finally, the fight is here, Stevie. Finally, Tito Ortiz fights Stephan Bonnar.
We've been waiting long enough. It's time to end the war of words and let these two go at it.
Yeah, the war to settle the score. I've heard so many different comparisons about this fight.
I hate to interrupt our Bellator talk, but I got breaking news.
Oh, breaking news. Go ahead.
Dan Henderson returns at 185 to fight Gegard Mousasi.
Whoa. That's a very interesting fight.
Yeah, should be a hell of a fight.
Why Mousasi, though? That's... I think, wow. I'm going to need a week to think about that fight.
Well, you've got a week, so we'll let that one sit for now, but that's breaking news for the show. But now back to Ortiz and Bonnar. Who do you think wins that main event?
I really don't know who I think. It's one of those fights where both these guys are past their prime, obviously. We get that. But you think Ortiz would get too cocky in this one?
Oh, you might think so based on the trash talking. You might think that he doesn't regard Bonnar very highly and thinks he's a cheater and doesn't believe that Bonnar has a chance, but I definitely wouldn't look past Stephan Bonnar because, again, it's not even whether or not he failed 2 drug tests. It is a fact that he did in the past. Although both guys passed their drug test, they took their pre-fight random screenings and they both came out clean. So they're both good to go for Saturday. So Ortiz can't really use that against him at this point. He's just got to look at the fact that he's won 2 fights in about 10 years. And whatever you think of Stephan Bonnar, he's won more than 2 fights in the last 10 years.
I think I'm going to go with Bonnar for the upset pick here.
I'm not even sure it's an upset pick. I picked Bonnar to beat him by unanimous decision.
Really?
Yeah.
You go to a decision after all the trash talk?
Honestly, I think they're pretty close in skill level at this point, but Bonnar is the guy that's, Bonnar doesn't have to rely on his mouth. Let me put it that way.
No, absolutely. You're right on that one.
Yeah.
But Ortiz, we've said it before, he's got a very big target there. Bonnar likes to punch. He's not a wrestler. He's a fighter. We've seen him go to the ground, yes, but I think his stand-up is much more impressive than his wrestling.
I think it's his ability to scrap that makes a difference in the fight because Ortiz is not the puncher he used to be. He can do it when he's fighting a guy in a weight class smaller than him, or he can get a lucky punch if somebody's charging at him for a takedown. But I honestly think if he goes toe-to-toe with Bonnar, it doesn't work out well for him.
Well, what do you think about the semi-main, which I think should be the main? Will Brooks against Michael Chandler for the lightweight title.
All I can say is they're using the Ortiz-Bonnar fight to lure in viewers, so I'm happy with that because it means more people are going to see Chandler and Brooks, and this is a very anticipated rematch because these guys had a 5-round war that went to a split decision that Chandler lost, and as I said when I interviewed Sean Wheelock, this 2 times now for Chandler that he's tried to get his lightweight title back and lost a split decision. And I almost think that's going to happen again, but this time the dice are finally going to land in his favor because he's been in these really close, really competitive 5-round fights. And if it goes that way again, I think this time the split decision finally falls to Chandler.
I think Brooks wins this fight. I think he wins this fight and it does not go to a decision.
Really? You think Brooks finishes him?
I think Brooks finishes him and really puts a statement out there that he is the lightweight to beat in Bellator.
I just think Chandler's the better wrestler. I think Chandler's going to do the things that he didn't do in the last fight. I don't think Brooks is going to take him down. I think that Chandler is going to have it scouted and figured out, and I think he's going to prevail this time.
Don't get me wrong, it's going to be a very entertaining fight. If Chandler wins, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think in this fight, Brooks will win this fight and before it goes to the judges.
All right, well, that's your pick. That's my pick. So let's move on to Muhammad Lawal and Joe Vetipo.
King Mo.
I honestly, though, it doesn't matter to me whether King Mo's opponent is Tom DePlass or Joe Vetipo. I think he wins either way.
I'll say this. King Mo wins the fight, and then at post-fight, he calls out Rampage.
Yeah, I suppose he could do that.
And what about Melvin Manhoef against Joe Schilling?
Oh, Manhoef blows him. Blows him up like dynamite.
Oh, man. Not even close, eh?
No, I expect Manoff to come out and crush him with a shot.
What about,
I expect the Marine Rickman to win.
all right. Well, looking at the prelims on Spike.com, there's a couple of fights here that I think would be interesting, like Nick Garcia and Matthew Ramirez, Kyle Bolt, AJ Matthews. Those are pretty good fights. Let's talk the news, and there's a whole bunch here. The first one was Fabio Maldonado. After hearing OSP call him out, he had 2 words for him. Challenge accepted.
What more do you need to say?
No, not much. We talked about the TV deal with the Ultimate Fighter possibly happening down the road, which I think is great for that area. It'll definitely put more of a spotlight on the Australia and New Zealand MMA scene, so that's always good. Now, those who are on Twitter, Ian McCall, very prevalent on Twitter, and he's had some few choice words for another fighter that's called out Ian McCall. Ali Bagatinov has said some harsh words, and McCall has fired back saying he's an idiot and a cheater. So it's going to be interesting to see if we get a Bagatinov-McCall fight, which that could be explosive, actually.
That could be a lot of fun.
Now, do you know the story about Wanderlei Silva? We talked about this last week. He was supposed to help out with the Bellator.
Yeah, that's contractual. UFC has enforced their appearance, whatever. Like, what do we always call it? Professional wrestling? Like, you sign a non-compete agreement.
Yeah.
They basically have the equivalent of that at UFC, and they're telling Silva, it doesn't matter whether you're with us or not. It doesn't matter whether you fight for us or not. You signed a non-compete agreement. You can't appear for Bellator.